What's up, rotters? Long time no speak. Welcome back to the podcast that takes a deep dive into the best and worst horror films of the 80s and 90s. I'm Stevie, your VHS veteran. Happy bloody New Year, you lot. I hope it's going horrendously. Apologies for my absence this past couple of weeks, but as you may have heard from Becky Dark on last week's episode, I was struck by a horrid illness and I was out of action for over 2 weeks. But I'm back now and I'm almost feeling myself again. This episode is brought to you by sponsors Helen Sanchez and Dan Gilmore. Hello! They recently signed up to our Patreon page and therefore get the golden treatment. Thank you both so much. It is hugely appreciated and I hope you enjoy the huge back catalogue of bonus episodes. Next week on Patreon, the Mates of Hell will be returning. That's Brad Hansen and Alex Ayling as we continue our journey through Lucio Fulci's Gates of Hell trilogy. Next week, we'll be covering the intestine-spewing City of the Living Dead. And then, from March on Patreon, specifically St. Patrick's Day, Mike Munzer will be joining me as we start our franchise retrospective of all 8 Leprechaun movies. Over a few months, we'll have special guests joining us, or should I say helping us along the way. I really can't wait to get started on that. It's been a while since I've seen a lot of those films. May the luck of the Irish be with us. If you want to join us both on our Gates of Hell and Leprechaun journeys, just head to steviesbrainrot.com and head to the Patreon page where you can sign up for just £5 a month. 5 squid. Also, our brand new Brain Rot VHS t-shirts have been restocked. Yay! We had sold out of a few sizes, but they are now officially in stock. So if you want to grab one before this lot run out again, just head to steviesbrainrot.com. Right then, time to bring home the bacon. This week, I'm joined by my buddies Anna Bogutskaya and Louise Blain to take a trip to the vast outback of Australia, where a giant fucking pig seems to be very angry. It's Razorback from 1984.
Out here is where it will find you. She was the last one to see it. Now, he must face it.
Thought you might know what happened to him.
Alone. God has created it. And hell has given it a name. Now, there's a new breed of terror. Razorback.
Louise and Anna, welcome back.
Hi, Stevie.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, Stevie. Always a pleasure.
Yes, we were just discussing before going on mic how cold it is because we're recording this. I think last night here, Louise, and you're in Scotland, but even here it was like -5.
Yep. The night before last, it was -10 in Glasgow. So that's fun. And it had that amazing thing of I looked outside and it looked like it had been snowing, but it hadn't been snowing. Everything was just covered in a thick layer of ice. It looked like a snow globe. It was amazing. It hasn't snowed here, but everything is white.
Like, I almost tripped on the ice the other day. I'm now walking like a
Penguin.
little, damaged penguin just to make sure that I don't fall or slip just in regular shoes on the street.
It's
ridiculous.
horrible.
I do not care for
No,
it.
it's not much fun. Yeah, we're all wrapped up, well, ish. And my heating's broken, so it's great. But we're talking about coal. We're actually going over to Australia today, aren't we? To talk about Razorback from 1984, directed by Russell Mulcahy, who went on to Highlander and Highlander 2, The Quickening. And before Razorback, he had directed lots of music videos for Elton John and Duran Duran and Fleetwood Mac. And he was a big 70s and 80s music video director. And this was also based on a 1981 novel by the same name by someone called Peter Brennan. Ozploitation, this falls into that category. What are your thoughts generally on sort of Australian horror? Because I always think it has quite a definite tone. Do you agree? What about you, Louise?
I always think it does. I mean, Australian horror always has quite a nasty edge to it. And whether that's,
Mm-hmm.
as nasty as something like Wolf Creek, which I don't think I ever want to watch again, or something a
No.
bit more fun and schlocky, but still, oh my God, I can't believe they did that in Sissy this year. Like, I think there's always some really interesting stuff comes out of Australia. And even things like that first, was it The Reef? That was Australian as well. And
Yes.
that was nasty with that shark. So yeah, I always think they've definitely got a distinct tone. And in this, it's still a little bit more fun, but there's a real scuzziness to it as well.
Yeah, definitely. What about you, Anna?
Well, I think that if nastiness can be a tone, then that's exploitation for me, and not necessarily just the exploitation of the Australian horror fair, but everything that's come out since. Even, Sissy is a good example, and I remember mentioning it to the directors, being like, y'all are all fucked up down there, because the movies that come out of Australia tend to be genuinely disturbing and disturbed. Like, I won't ever forget watching The Loved Ones for the first time.
I was going to say,
or,
yeah.
Or even, this is not strictly an Australian horror, although I believe the director is Australian, Berlin Syndrome. I got letters of complaint after screening that because people were so disturbed by it. So,
Wow.
like, there is something really profoundly nasty in the way that they approach their characters, and the tones and the shades of the horror films that come out of there are all very different. I wouldn't say that they all look the same or have the same feel to them, or even fall within kind of the same flavor or type of horror film, but they all just tend to err on the side of extreme human nastiness, which I'm kind of into anyway, so it all works out.
Yeah, no, me too. That's the thing, because they kind of double down, because we already know basically everything that lives in Australia can kill you, whether it's an animal or a human. That's what they're trying to tell us. It can be a schoolgirl having a party, it can be a crazy man in the outback, or it can just be a fucking pig. And so it makes the exploitation sort of side of it just makes Australia just feel so dangerous. And I think they play to that. I think it's very deliberate. They like to scare us, I think, and make us think, what is this part of the world? Have either of you been there?
No.
No,
me neither.
I've always wanted to.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure
Take us to
from what I've seen. And well, this was, although it's never been confirmed, obviously there was the really famous case in 1980 of Azaria Chamberlain, whose mother was accused of murder, and she claimed that a dingo took the baby, which is, I think people throw out that quote, it being funny, like, oh, the dingo ate my baby, but actually it's a really fucking harrowing and horrible story. And I think it's not been confirmed because it might be distasteful, but you can definitely see that there's probably influence on the story of this, right?
Oh, absolutely. I was actually thinking of that case as I started watching the film. So, as a preface, the only thing I knew about Razorback personally is exactly what I sent to both of you over WhatsApp. Is there is a big giant pig who's a killer. That's all I need to know. Thank you very much. Don't need any more information. Didn't look up who the director was until afterwards. Don't need to know anything except giant pig. But the thing that I started thinking of as soon as the movie started, and obviously it starts with kind of this giant boar, this razorback killing a child. I was like, oh, it's the dingo took my baby thing. But, a giant razorback is a little bit more intimidating physically than a dingo. But that also got made into a film with Meryl Streep.
Yeah.
To kind of try to, emphasize the human horror of it, as opposed to just making a funny accent and saying the sentence over and over again.
Do you know, it's funny? I think, Anna, the fact that you were thinking about thematics when it started. When it started, what I was thinking was, oh my God, how is this shot like this? How is my brain going to catch up with this? Because I think the first thing I was like, why is it like this? Why is the camera moving like this? Why are the cuts like this? My brain cannot. It was like that Supercut movie we watched at Weird Weekend about all the dogs. I was literally like, I don't know if my brain is going to be able to catch up with this very distinct visual style, which it then did and then it became very obvious that he had experience in music videos because it's
Mhm.
cut and shot like a music video cheese dream about murder bores.
Yes.
I love that. I actually love the cinematography and the visuals of it,
Mhm.
and it won awards. So this is an award-winning film, and it won
Yeah.
awards for its editing and its cinematography.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Damn, this is stylish."
It
That
really
sort of
is.
dream sequence. This is incredible. And also,
It's wonderful, isn't it?
and also the board just like literally running through the entire house from one end
Yes.
to the other.
And everything suddenly being on fire and just being like, why is everything on
Everything is
fire?
on
What
fire.
did
Also,
it do?
everyone dramatically yells. There's
Yeah.
so much, high intensity acting going on. I love it. There's one scene where the older man, kind of the grandpa who's accused of murdering the baby,
Jake, yeah.
when he becomes consumed with this fury and this revenge sentiment against all pigs, which I think is kind of unfair, and all boars and razorbacks. And he gets injured in his leg, and there's this really weird scene where he looks down at his leg and then he just screams into the
Yes.
sky like, "Oh God, why have you forsaken me again?"
But then it freeze frames on that, and then it cuts to him like just going about his day. So it doesn't even cut to another person or leave it there. It freezes on him screaming, and then it cuts to him doing something else. It's bizarre. But I have a soft spot for this movie because of everything you've just said, like Louise, all the fast cuts and stuff. It never drags because it also it never makes you it never makes you work for information. There are these succinct moments of key information that any other movie would spend 20 minutes giving you, and
Yep.
it just checklists them off. It's like boom, boom, boom. This is basically what's going to happen. And when it opened, it got mixed reviews, and but of course it got all the comparisons to Jaws, and this was 11 years later, and it just really got me thinking how insane that is. I mean, it still happens now, doesn't it? Any animal attack movie is still compared to Jaws, 40 years later, more than that. And I find that mad, but for all its kind of schlocky and sometimes baffling storytelling, I think it really shoots by at an enjoyable pace. And there's a fuck ton of problematic representation too, but the timeline and the sort of visual decisions are so alarming that you don't have time to question anything. You're kind of like, hang on, that doesn't feel very appropriate. Oh, there's a talking horse skeleton. And you're just like, oh God, right, no time to process.
I think that's how the movie fools you. And also, much like Jaws, you get to see the Razorback very in very few shots.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
it really teases the amount of giant pig that you get to see.
That's right. But this one wasn't. This one was deliberate, not in the way that it kept breaking down like in Jaws. They spent $250,000 in 1984 on this pig's animatronic head, and they barely show it.
Sounds fair.
It's worth it. Worth every penny.
Yeah, I think it's great. Louise, do you have what would you tell people who hadn't seen it? What's Razorback about?
So as we discussed, a man loses his grandchild to a boar, and we cut to some time later when I think she's a wildlife reporter, comes to Australia and starts reporting on things that nobody really wants her to report on. She gets murderized by the boar, and then 80s Paul Rudd, her husband, arrives from New York and to find out what happened to her. And but yes, then murderous boar activity ensue. And I just wanted to say that I just found it relentlessly Mad Max-esque and strange with the amazing cast of locals. The guys that were working in the pet food factory were like
Yes.
something. I mean, was one of them intentionally dressed as Robin in the colours of Robin from Batman?
Oh my God, it was at the end is when I really noticed that. I was like, has he got green tights and poofy
Yes.
arms on? Is this
Yellow
what is
poofy
happening?
arms.
I want to think that it was a creative decision by the actor.
For sure.
Yeah, I like
He
to
was
think
like,
that
I
too.
want to be an Australian mix of Spike from Buffy and Robin.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. A little bit of Peter Pan in there as well. But that opening, it's quite a choice, isn't it? To go, we're going to kill a baby. And of course, Louise, you've got to have inexplicable explosions because
Yes.
something rips through the house, sets several fires, and then it goes, boom, title card, Razorback. I love it. But even the trial is so quick. It's like, we know these are boring in films. We've got to get the information out. You know, it usually takes the whole first act, but you get, it was a razorback. That's impossible. A giant razorback. You're crazy. We as the town don't believe you, and you shall remain hell-bent on catching said boar. New York, 2 years later, done. I enjoy that type of storytelling.
Also, it allows us for the absolutely exquisite lines in the script, like a lawyer interviewing the Robin / Spike meld. So tell me, as a professional kangaroo shooter, do you consider this possible?
He says that at least 3 times, doesn't he?
The amount of respect allowed for the kangaroo shooters is like, oh yeah, put that on your
witness.
LinkedIn, mate.
Yeah, your key expert at the trial. What do you think then? Because we jump 2 years later and we meet Carl and Beth. Again, everything is wonderfully condensed. In about one sentence, she says, I'm doing a piece on kangaroos in Australia and I leave on Monday. I hate being away for our anniversary. Maybe it's prenatal depression. Wow. Okay. Gotcha. So anniversary, pregnant, Australia. No faffing. What do we think about these two, Louise?
Well, I really, for all the seconds that we see them together, again, it feels like they knew where they wanted to go with this movie. They knew they only had 90 odd minutes to do it, and just went, no, you've set this, we've understood this. You're here for the killer pigs and for the style and for the feel of this. So you don't actually need any more. And yes, it's big, broad brush strokes, but I really like that about it. Like, I like the fact we're going to get to this point and we're going to take you into the wilderness and into the outback, because in those moments, the movie, like, it slows down. We actually get, like, from as strange and wacky as the very scuzzy characters are, as we go into sort of mines and find places to sleep and there's no showers and all of this and everything feels a bit gross and a bit grimy. That's where it all kind of slows down and we see stuff happen. Or when we're out in the outback having those sort of weird, like, Dali-esque strange hallucination things, like, it takes time to do those because they're like, well, this looks cool and this feels cool and we know exactly what you're here for, so we're going to just deliver it. And I kind of loved that about it.
Yeah, it's nice. It's sort of a reversal, isn't it? Because, as you say, where the action takes place, it's very, very deliberate, and I really enjoy it. Do you like this, Anna?
I do, although I think I am professionally bound to point out the lack of journalistic professionalism that she has. We intimate so much about this woman and her relationship to her work and her husband through those very efficient scenes that Louise just described, but also through her just wandering into a bar in the Australian outback and just saying, hey, are there any kangaroo shooters around here? Anyone would like to put you on camera? I'd like to interview you. Hello, I am a journalist.
Yes.
Which I found, like, instantly, I was like, you know what? You're going to get murdered within 30 seconds.
Yep.
And I love it. It's economic storytelling.
That's really interesting.
It's that thing of no one knowing what genre they're in as well. Like, it's that thing of horror characters don't know what genre they're in, so they'll go downstairs to investigate the strange noises. So she doesn't know which movie she's in. So she's just, this will be fun. Yeah. This is great.
I'll sneak around the meat factory, and then, of course, then we get the real Mad Max style dirt road pursuit with the armored truck. And actually, the DOP did do Mad Max too, so that's why you get the visuals are just insane. So you've got someone who worked on Mad Max and someone who does incredible music videos, and I think that is where that marriage just makes kind of beautiful visuals. A lot of it, some of the sort of, I know it's fake, but some of the sunset moments, it's very Dune. You have the moment with almost 2 moons in the dream sequence, but this assault that happens, I mean, I was watching it with subtitles. One of my favorite things is they get scared off by what the subtitles described as loud sniffing. And I suppose they know what that is. And then, we've got...
Someone's got a bad cold.
Yes, it just goes loud sniffing and they go, oh, and run away. But then we meet...
I would get scared by that if I was in Australia.
Any noise.
100%.
Any noise in Australia that doesn't come from you is dangerous. That means run. But the actual boar, yeah, we said we don't see it that much. Mr. Back, first name Razor. What we do see of it, though, I think it's great. I don't see the $250,000 animatronics. To me, it just looks like it opens and closes. But I think it's really good, right? For what it is.
It's definitely.
Well, I think we kind of see the $250,000 in animatronics by the fact that it doesn't look like an animatronic.
True.
Like the shark in Jaws kind of does look
Yeah.
fake, and like I know that was the big thing, and it's the main reason why they sort of avoid showing it too much, because the animatronic looked so fake that they were worried. And I feel like here the not showing the boar a lot, also showing him next to other normal sized pigs, not to body shame Mr. Back. He's beautiful as he is.
Mr. Back.
And you just want to see the sheer size of him, because they keep telling us in the script, oh, he's 5 or 6 times the regular size of a razorback. He's ginormous. He can run through a house. He can eat a baby. He can kill anyone he wants. So you build up this image of him, and then when you finally like see him in a few scenes, it's like it's either extreme close up, so it's just like big face on the screen, or this enormously sized boar with the tiny little pigs that are also enormous really next to him. And I'm like, you know what, that actually looks real. That looks like a real boar.
There's that really...
I believed it. I completely bought it.
I'm with you, Anna, but there's also that amazing, and I don't know if it's a perspective joke, but I saw it as a perspective joke when all the townspeople, grabbing their torch and pitchforks to go and kill the pig they've tracked, and then they like see a pig and you think, oh, is that the pig? And then they jump down and it's a piglet.
Yes.
And it's just like
it's a piglet.
It's like why did it go from being like, wow, there's the pig, and then they jump down and it's actually like up to their knees. And I was just like, is this a purposeful perspective joke? Because I'm really here for this.
Yes. I think it probably is. So you mentioned though, Anna, that you saw it coming, that the reporter was going to die, because this happens 30 minutes in, because every time I watch it, I always feel like they're setting it up to look like we're going to have a possible strong female lead, but then the man has to come to the rescue. And I don't know, I always found it a little bit disappointing. But did you spot that coming, Louise?
I didn't, actually. No. I was quite sad. But again, it's doing that economical, like, quick killer so we can get the next stage in. And I also thought I was kind of disappointed by the fact that they clearly just replaced her with a different blonde to be as, to be the love interest. I was just like, oh, there's, you instantly get this shower scene. You're like, oh, there's the replacement wife. Yes. I see.
Do you know about the shower scene? Do you know about that and how they got her to do that? I don't know if you've read up on that.
I do actually know.
I read
about
this.
That.
Yes.
Apparently, the actress did not want to do the nude shower scene, and they were like, "Yeah, sure, fine, we'll get a body double for you. Well, it's absolutely fine." But then they just offhandedly, mentioned to her, it's like, "Oh yeah, the body double looks great. She's got a little bit of cellulite around the hips, but she's dead ringer for you." And she, by that
such a
little snippet of information, true or false, who knows at this point, she decided to do it herself because she preferred to do a nude scene rather than have people think that she had cellulite on her hips.
Wow. I mean, I don't know how I feel about that. Obviously, it worked, but come on.
I mean, it's all messed up.
It's problematic, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm disappointed when she dies because, well, although we never see her fully die, and so I think throughout you're not sure if he is going to find her or not. Not that he's that bothered himself, because as soon as he gets there, he's sort of sharing booze with the two Hick brothers, having a laugh. He's in the middle of the car with them. It doesn't take any of it that seriously. He acts a bit like it's a lad's holiday rather than his wife's car was found crushed like a can of Coke, and she's not been seen since. And I found his lack of concern a little bit lacking.
Yeah, he did too good a job of pretending.
Yeah, I guess.
I wonder if he's just a better investigative journalist than she was.
But I was a bit confused. Obviously, he's not telling them who he is and that he has a connection to her. So I guess he is trying to put on a brave face and act. Mm-hmm. But then he's
undercover.
Yes, Yeah, he's undercover, but they leave him in the outback and say, "I'll be back in 5 or 6 hours." And I wasn't sure what was happening then. I was like, did I miss something? Was I blacking out? Because the next thing I know, he's cuddling a dead kangaroo and resting his head on it and having a nap.
I think didn't he mess up there? Didn't he do something wrong? Didn't he fuck up?
So
and they left him
they
out there.
kicked
Yeah, I
him
think
out.
that was a punishment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I think they
Yeah,
were
I
starting to
think.
get inklings that maybe he was related or associated with the other
Oh, I see. There was suspicion.
with the journalist.
Yeah, because he cared a
Mm.
bit much, didn't he? Because they shot it, but it didn't
That's
die,
right.
and he's like,
Mhm.
fully kill it. And they're like, no, because that's the only way we can keep it fresh, as if they're not dead and constantly suffering. And he wasn't for that.
That's right. He
So,
gets out
yeah.
and he chops it up. Yeah, that's right. The bit though, because obviously he climbs up like a wind tower. I don't know, not Australian. But you know the moment where it comes down and he realizes the pigs can't swim, which he inexplicably shouts at them.
Yeah.
You can't swim.
Yes.
You can't get me. Is that utilized later? Because I thought that was the setup of how he's going to survive.
No.
I thought so too, but
That
it
was
doesn't
not.
come back.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Because he really...
It was not Chekhov's swim fact.
No. It's the way he's screaming, you can't get me. Wonderful.
And also, can we just fact check this for a bit? Because for completely unrelated reasons to this recording, I was wondering the same thing just a few days ago. Can pigs swim?
What? How is that?
And
how are you thinking that?
I was just wondering. And I did research this, and apparently pigs are excellent swimmers.
Great.
So technically,
So,
this is not accurate.
and then on top
But
of...
maybe the size of our friend Mr. Back
Mm.
would mean that he couldn't if he did try. Although he'd be all to scale, wouldn't he? So,
But also on top of that,
hmm.
it's a puddle. It's not like the pigs could walk. The pigs could walk into it. It's very, very shallow what he's in. But so that's just so one, it's an inaccurate fact, and two, it's useless.
Yes.
Great.
But it just does give us a great moment where he yells at the pig.
Yeah, this is genius.
Yeah, there's a lot of sky screaming. I'm here for sky
there
screaming.
is.
I didn't think I really needed that much of it.
Yeah, but the sort of dream sequence. This is the very sort of Lynchian inspired
Mhm.
section. I think this is visually fantastic. Do you guys like this?
Oh, I
Oh
love
yeah,
it.
I loved it.
Yeah.
It also really made
was-
me think of Richard Stanley's films. I know, we're not supposed to talk about him anymore.
Right.
I mean, not a great man,
Cancel.
but two great films.
No, I loved that weird talking horse, and I loved the fact that it kept coming back. I was literally like, why have you taken the skeleton horse thing away? I know it's back. Yes, this is wonderful. Yeah, I loved all that, and the music was great.
Yes.
I could have done, yeah, I could have continued to watch that because I think it was constantly a surprise. Because I honestly didn't know what I was going to watch with this movie because I actually thought I'd already seen it, but what I'd seen was 2018's Boar.
Did you see that Fright Fest?
Yes, I think
Yeah.
so. And I was just like, well, I don't know what this movie is. And then it just kept doing really cool, fun things. So initially, I went from to, oh, wow, I'm actually watching a great movie for Stevie.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is. You're welcome. No, I just think
This is what I get for all that Children of the Corn bullshit. This is it.
After last time when I had the two of you, I think with Anna we really covered the worst ones, I think, because it was probably the most boring hours of my life. And so I thought, no, I will give you something a bit meatier, something a bit better.
Literally.
And yeah, meatier. Yeah, maybe got back. But it does also give us, I think, an amazing scare, which is Sarah, who he'd met showering outside, when she turns round and she's got the pig face. It is terrifying.
Yes.
It's so good.
It's really good.
And yet she survives.
Yeah, that's all. Also, she looks like she stepped out of Vogue, but she lives alone in the middle of nowhere, and she's got amazing clean clothes and everything. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it just seems...
You know what? I think that tracks. Because if you're
Really?
a woman living alone in the Australian outback, nobody's in your business, nobody's bothering you. You would look
Okay.
amazing.
I
Because
guess
you would
so.
not have to deal with everyone else's bullshit.
Meanwhile, everyone else in this
support
entire movie, everyone else in the entire movie is literally
Toothless.
scuzzing about, looking utterly filthy. Like every item of clothing they wear somehow looks like extra baubled. Like they did a really good job of creating that kind of post-apocalypse vibe without it being the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes, yeah, that Mad Maxian thing. I
mm,
quite enjoy the guy who's just sat watching TV laughing with a beer, and half of his house is torn away and dragged into the night. I'm not even sure really what's happening because I understand it's the Razorback. I don't know why there are chains attached to his house and why the Razorback is pulling them, but I'm here
Yep.
for it.
it was amazing. That TV just
He
disappearing
is the
was great.
smartest animal.
Yeah. Yeah, Jake's on the case, obviously, because he's hell-bent on finding this Razorback. And there's a bit where he shoots him, because he has quite a few sky screams himself when he shoots the Razorback several times and it trots off. And he just goes, ah! And that's another freeze frame, and then cut back to him once he's calmed down and tracking it on the computer, because he also managed to dart it. And then Carl decides he's leaving as he, quote, got what he came for. Now, was I blacking out again? Because didn't he come for his pregnant wife?
He
Because
got
then
an upgrade.
Oh, don't. Not that. Because he's at the bus stop, kind of just kicking up sand with his hands in his pockets, ready to go home. Like, yeah, mission
Well, it's because
accomplished.
because he had the ring by that point, didn't he? He had the wedding ring, and that's how he
Yes.
knew that
So
she'd been murderized. So he was literally saying, I came for what I got this, which was basically he got his knowledge that his wife had been.
He got closure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what he got. That's what he came for. He came for information. He found a ring of sadness, and that's it.
Okay. But anyway,
And then he got a new wife.
Yeah, then he
Yeah.
got a new one. Fresh blonde,
Yeah.
younger, cleaner.
Because she comes and picks him back up, doesn't she? Because suddenly then
Yeah.
he's chasing after Benny, who's one of the Hick brothers, with a rifle across the mine shafts. It's all very quick. It does a full 180. He's literally at the bus stop, and then within 8 seconds, he's over the mines, running with a rifle, chasing someone. And then Sarah's gathered the mob.
Can I just say, I thought there was going to be like a full Lassie moment when he sent the dog away, because he was like, "Go now," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, is he going to say the critters are down the hole and there's the Razorback's been?" But actually, it was just she saw that the dog was hit by the horrible men, and then decided that was enough information.
Yeah. And then it's the final third act. So you've got the townsfolk and the brothers, and the boar, and then the love. Sort of the new love story, and there's a lot going on. I quite like it. It's kind of like the end of Act 1 of Les Mis, where all the stories come together. And the evil brother, the one that's surviving, he falls down a massive ditch that he can't climb out of. But you know who can? A boar. The human with hands and opposable thumbs cannot climb out, but a boar, in and out.
That's Mr. Back to you.
It's a statement. I'm just making a statement, not a question. And then it's the Razorback versus Carl in the factory. What do you think of this whole climax? Did this work for you, Louise?
Yes. To the point where I actually rewound it and filmed it so I could send it in GIF form to various people. I love the fact that we finally got to see the pig itself. It was basically like, which Wallace and Gromit was it, where they fought the robotic dog?
Yes, the wrong
in the factory.
No,
what was it called? It was the one with Shaun the Sheep in it. It was glorious, and
yes.
it was exactly this. The dog was on the conveyor belt running, and Wallace and Gromit, and all the sheep were running as well. It was basically the giant boar with tusks equivalent of that, and I loved every minute of it.
I'm so glad. This is making me so happy. Obviously, we've also had earlier on a little pointed moment when it's like, oh, careful with that. Do you want the whole place to explode? When we first saw in the factory. What do you think of all this final moments?
Well, beautiful. It's beautiful scripting. It's beautiful explosions. I love a maximalist filmmaker, and this is his first feature film. He'd made a Derek and Clive documentary before he made this, which is completely different ball game. But I can understand he wanted to make a big splash, a big show of things. And, he starts with an explosion, then he leads us in to know that there's going to be another one to finish it all off, and he
Yeah.
delivers.
Yeah. But the thing is, he manages to stop the explosion by hitting the pressurized gas canister with a piece of wood, like an old PC. When you just twat it on the side if it's misbehaving and it goes, oh,
Impact technology.
Yes, impact technology. So we don't get the explosion we're expecting, but I mean, it's all, it's gearing up to it. And I think the tension's really good. I think it's a lot of fun. The boar is just bashing through walls. It's on a conveyor belt. It becomes mincemeat. And then we have Sarah and Carl in each other's arms.
Perfect. Oh, it's called a close shave. I just remembered that.
Oh, there you go, a close shave. Yes,
sorry. Yes, it's a pig version of a close shave, which even also was in a pet food factory. They basically ripped it off. I didn't even realize this.
But I do have to say, it left me it does leave me a little bit sour that Carl has moved on quite so quickly when he hasn't. He's only found her ring, and not only has he lost his wife, he's lost his first child, and it just never really seems to play on his mind. No.
Maybe an interaction with a boar like that on a conveyor belt will really change your priorities.
No, I think before and that. Also, do we come to Razorback for the emotional depth? No, we come for the giant pig.
What's going on here? How are you two defending the film, and I'm here pulling holes at it?
We're not here for this, Stevie. I'd just like to explain it, Stevie. There's this, 80s movies as a whole don't tend to be entirely.
Aha!
Also,
I see.
I've got a great podcast for you.
Also, can I just mention, and we haven't really mentioned him, but this is written by Everett DeRoche, who also wrote Road Games.
Yes.
Which is one of my favorite Australian films. Yes, which is essentially like Rear Window on a Truck in the same way as this is Jaws with a giant pig.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's got that it's got a very similar vibe actually, and I think that also is just the Australian thing because it makes me think. Obviously, growing up, wherever you grow up, the areas that scare you, don't you? Like I know where I grew up near Liverpool. I know that if I was going to write a horror film, I'd probably set it in this certain part of Liverpool that was always terrifying, or that there's danger, and I suppose that's why Australian horror always has this really tangible and scary vibe because they've probably been to those places or at least seen them or been told about to stay away by their family, right?
Absolutely. I'm sure.
I suppose when you have that much, I think when you've got that much outback and you've got that much wild country, I think it kind of breeds from that suddenly, horror writers can they can let their imaginations run wild with what's in that space. And it's kind of that horror theme of the unknown being out there. And it's not obviously you could have then Australian folk horror as people go out into it, but there's also just the added element of you leave town and there are things that are going to get you. And it doesn't matter what those things are, whether they're people or creatures or what they are. There's a whole lot of space between those cities, and that might breed that kind of unknownness.
There's also the element of and we don't really get this in the film, but I kept thinking about this as a potential origin story for the giant pig. I know it's based on a book, but there is just so much room for urban legends. Although this is set in the outback, so all of these stories that get passed on and exaggerated. Maybe there was a pig who killed a baby, and then suddenly he became a boar, then he became a giant razorback, and he became 6 times the size that a regular boar is. So I like the idea of these stories, also these ideas for horror films, for exploitation films, coming from essentially exaggerated folk tales.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because it does have, especially with the dream sequences, it does have a slight fairy tale vibe to it, doesn't it? And I think it is that having the jump in time of the legend of the killer boar, and such as the the dingo ate my baby. It is that. So would you say this is your favorite Killer Pig movie?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think
I'd like to see more. Actually, I haven't seen Boar.
It's not as good as this.
it is sort of inspired by or loosely based on this, I think, Bore from 2017-18, which I never saw. I was gutted. I think I had a ticket to it at Fright Fest, but then because Fright Fest just didn't go, because something else was obviously more exciting, like the pub at the time. Anything else that you'd like to say on this, or what would you say to someone who hasn't seen it? Would you recommend it, Louise?
Oh, totally. Rent it immediately. Watch it. If you've
Yeah?
listened this far and you still haven't stopped to go and watch it, I'm not really sure. We must have done something really wrong. So, yes, everyone should. Everyone. I never thought I would say this, Stevie, but yes, everyone should watch Razorback. Everyone.
There you
And
go.
appreciate its fonts. We've not discussed its fonts. Its fonts are offensive, and I love them.
It's fonts.
Hmm.
What do you mean?
Well, honestly, that font when there was so much. You surely the introduction with that font was literally wanted to remove my eyes with its ugliness. I loved it.
What about you, Anna? Any final thoughts or recommendations?
Listen, I'm always up for a pig movie of any kind, be that giant, benevolent, or killer. So if you're a fan of the pig form, this is definitely one for you.
Thank you
There's
very
a
much.
poster quote.
Yeah, stick that on it. I'm really hoping it gets a really good Blu-ray release, because I'd love to see, just for the I don't think it should be restored, because I think it benefits from its graininess and it gives it that dusty outback feel. So I'm not that excited about a cleaned up visual version of it, but I really would like some more extras, because I think it just sounds like it was probably a really fascinating thing to shoot.
I would like to read the oral history. That's what I would like.
Yeah.
Yes, quite. I think there is in 2005 they released a little sort of mini special documentary about it, where they found a lot of grotesque footage that had to be cut because it was that time, in the mid 80s. And so I'd like to get my hands on that to see what it was that was deemed too explicit. And if I find it, I'll send it on. Anything coming up that we can look out for from both of you? Anna, I'll come to you first.
Well, I've finished the latest season of the Final Girls podcast, House of Psychotic Women, and I'm prepping the next one. So subscribe to that feed to find out what the next season is going to be like. I'll start next year, and publishing stuff all the time that you can find on my Twitter page at Anna B Demented. While we're all still on Twitter.
Yes, thank you. And Louise?
Yes, while Twitter still exists, which, although we thought it was going to die, and then it just didn't, and we all went back to normal. So we're kind of just like, I feel like we're all kind of tiptoeing around going, is this fine now?
Yeah, I never signed up to
ready.
any of the other alternatives. I just gave it a little bit more time, and then that seems to have been the right decision.
So if you are on Twitter, I'm shiny_demon, and you can find my work there. Over the next, what we've got coming, Sound of Gaming. Our theme was turn-based games at the start of December, and I interviewed the video game composer Tim Wynn about Marvel's Midnight Suns, and also kind of celebrated all turn-based games in all their forms, and that's currently available on BBC Sounds. And depending on when this is going out, and I'm about to do it today, I'm going to speak to the composer Grant Kirkhope, who is the composer for Mario plus Rabbids, Sparks of Hope, and Kingdom Battle. And we're going to talk about comedy games. So the show at the start of January is quite gentle and fun, and about the different ways that video games make us laugh, and celebrating the soundtracks of those as well. And that's on Radio 3. But yes, it'll all be on BBC Sounds.
That'd be a nice way to start the year.
There's so many horror games coming out. So many.
I know. And for me, it's a tie at the moment between Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I'm so excited for both of those.
Which are both basically two sides of the same asymmetrical multiplayer coin, aren't they? But tonally, they'll be very, very different experiences. Yeah. But yeah, I'm looking forward to, horror-wise, I'm looking forward to Redfall, which is from Arcane Studios, and it's like a squad-based vampire shooter set in this, so that'll be really fun. So you can play it on your own, but then it'll be more fun with 3 other friends. Basically, vampires have managed to block out the sun, and you've got lots of abilities and powers, and you need to shoot fuck out them. So I'm looking forward to that. And that's because it's from Arcane, who made Dishonored. I think it'll be really interesting, because it'll be about comboing up different ways to dust them, basically. So vampire slaying on crack, and I'm here for that.
Fucking yeah. When's that? Do you know yet?
Summer 2023. It was meant to be out this year, but they moved it. So it's not got a confirmed release, but they did say summer 2023.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, thank you both so much, and Happy New Year and all that. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Stevie.
There we have it. Thank you so much to my amazing guests, Louise and Anna. I can't believe I made them watch a movie they actually liked for brain rot. Incredible stuff. Okay, also, sad news, single tier. We only have 3 episodes left of this season of Brain Rot before we take a big old break. I'll be announcing the last few episodes very soon on Twitter, so make sure to follow us there. The links to all the socials can be found, of course, at steviesbrainrot.com. Until next time, Rotters, toodles!